So let's see whether YouTube actually does a better job today at showing the accurate numbers of viewers in here. Because yesterday, or the last time I went live, it was very inaccurate. So, see if anybody joins up. This one's a different one because normally I'm walking and talking. Today I am working and talking. Or trying to work and trying to talk. But I wanted to talk about the difficulty of starting your own business and trying to do everything yourself, because I'm currently in that process. I have a coaching business, and until you actually start a business, you don't realize just how much goes into it. And AI helps a lot these days. It really does. But there's still a hell of a lot that needs to be done. And it's one of these funny things, because I encourage everybody to work for themselves. I think that mainstream employee jobs are not going to be around for much longer. They're dying out. They just won't exist in, well, I don't know the timeline, but in a few years' time, the vast majority, I think, of employee jobs will be gone, and most of the what would you say, like wealth, way that most of the income that people earn will either be on a universal credit system, or in micro businesses or bigger businesses, but people will be primarily working for themselves, doing something of their own. And I think that the sooner we accept that, the better. But it's also good to know that there's a lot of work involved, and not just jumping into something that you think is going to be easy and something that you think is going to make money quickly just for the hell of it, without giving some real thought into what might be involved. And I think the best way to go about it is actually to start thinking in terms of, like, what is it that you really want to do? What is it that you're called to create, called to provide? Thinking in terms of passion and service, I think, is going to be the thing that gets a lot of people the furthest, right? Building a business that they're actually passionate about, because it's going to be hard. And if you are not passionate about it, then you're not going to get very far. You're just going to quit when the going gets tough, which it inevitably will. And I think at the moment, people are too many entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs are too focused on how can I get rich quick? How can I make money as quickly as possible? And not thinking about the fact that what happens if it doesn't happen as quickly as possible. Are they able to continue taking the action, continue showing up, even when the external results aren't there yet? And I think that's what causes a lot of people to switch, go from one shiny object to the next, because they are not doing it for the right reasons. They're not actually called to it, called to serve, and that's what gets people in trouble. Certainly what's gotten me into trouble in the past, where I've been doing things that I thought I should do, that made sense, logical, rational. Oh yes, I should start a property business because I have experience in working with houses and renovating, and I can make a lot of money from it, potentially. But I missed out on one of the core things, which was passion. I wasn't really drawn to it. Didn't have an emotional connection to solving that particular problem. The same went for when I started studying engineering. I started studying engineering because I thought that was the responsible thing to do. That was the thing that I had always seen myself as doing. I'd always seen myself as doing that, but I no longer felt I know, like, I never really felt drawn to it, right? I didn't actually fully understand what it was, so I started it, and it turned out to be way harder than I thought. And of course, I also didn't make things easy for myself. I started studying mechanical engineering in a country in a foreign language at one of the top universities for applied sciences for that subject. So I made it much harder than it needed to be. But not only that, as I picked something that I wasn't really drawn to, I wasn't passionate about, and I picked it for the wrong reasons, and then inevitably got fed up with it and quit. So, for example, what I'm working on now, this coaching business, is something that I feel really passionate about, that I love to see the changes in my clients, the people that I help, see them go from really struggling in a particular area of their life, whether it's in their relationship, having somebody come to me and, voice that he believes the relationship is coming to the end because there's nothing that they can do. They can't, him and his partner can't understand each other. And then by the end of the session, to be walking out of that going, oh, I see things differently now. I have a new perspective on things. And then to come back a week later and tell me, oh, wow, my relationship's now better than ever, and having that kind of response and getting that kind of feedback is incredibly motivating, right? And I think that's so important when we look at, like, what business are we getting into, what are we actually spending our time and our energy doing in life, is to actually look at what are we really drawn towards, what gives us an emotional, like an emotional response. And so when I work with clients and I can see that they go from being stuck, I'm getting emotional even just thinking about it now, we go from being in pain, and a lot of the time it's self-inflicted pain, and they go from that to having some sort of internal transformation and some sort of internal resolution and new perspective. And they take that into their lives. In this case, for example, this client took that experience, this new perspective that he'd gained about his relationship, both to his partner but also to himself, and completely transformed the relationship that he had with his partner. And now they're doing the best that they've ever done. And I think when you start to think about, like, for example, if you're thinking about starting a business, firstly recognizing that it is a lot of work. It is way more work than you think it's going to be. But if you get it right and you go into the right field, the right area, something that actually connects with you and your heart and your, something deep inside, then it doesn't matter how difficult it is. You've got to do something with your time anyway, right? You've got to do something while you're on this planet, and you might as well do something that is difficult, but also that is meaningful. And I think so often that part, I'm not sure if you can hear that, I've got Vietnamese street vendors. They've got these microphones that they play on repeat. It's always funny. But I can hear that coming in through the window. But yeah, so you get into this, I think when you get that right, it doesn't matter how long things take. It doesn't matter how difficult they are, because you're drawn to it, and you get positive feedback from the process, not just the results that you get. That's certainly been in my experience. So at the moment, for example, I'm launching a new offer. I want to hold a free webinar or masterclass for my potential clients, and so I'm updating my website. Thankfully, AI is helping a lot with that now. We can code it all. I'm using Claude Code to code my website. I can show you, actually. Maybe I can just show you briefly. So this is the website that I'm currently working on now. In terms of like coding and getting everything working so that there's all these different pages, you can get this all done with Claude, but AI still sucks at creating proper copy. So all of this copy needs to be updated. That's kind of on the list at the moment. That's what I'm working on. But you can code all of this stuff yourself. and you don't. So in my case, I'm bootstrapping it all. I'm funding this business myself, and so it's difficult. I don't have a whole lot of money to invest in paying somebody to build out a really great website. But you can see here, for example, I've hooked up my YouTube channel, which you're currently watching, also my podcast on Spotify. We've got a workshop at the moment that I'm co-hosting, so I've got a page here that's advertising that with a purchase link. So AI helps a lot with the systems, I suppose, getting, and I'm sure you guys are all up to play with AI, but I'm constantly impressed with how the new ways that I can use it. So not only obviously creating websites and helping to map out different processes, I'm currently building out or scripting a new VSL. That's something, for example, where AI is no use whatsoever, because if you're using AI to write for you, it will always come across as AI generated. Like, it'll just always seem that way. And I think that I see this all the time. Some people think that they can fool viewers and readers and clients and things into believing that they wrote their posts, but it's always noticeable. Some people are much better at prompting AI than others, but I think it's always noticeable if you're getting your content written by AI. So I think in terms of like use cases, that's something that I would stay away from. What I'm using it for example, I've been writing this new VSL script for a video sales letter, and I've written the whole thing myself, but then I put it into Claude and I tell it to analyze it and tell me what's missing. So from a psychological perspective, like what are the influence mechanisms that are missing within my VSL? So maybe that's like a proof or social proof, providing people with the reviews of the people that I've worked with, or the different kinds of ways of telling a story and things. And AI is really good for that, in terms of being able to analyze what you've written and point out what's missing. But as soon as it comes to trying to like generate, what would you say? As soon as you try to get it to fill those gaps, it just sounds like rubbish. So I wouldn't recommend it for that. But there's a lot. I mean, so anyway, the point was that AI is now, if you're smart about it, you can get it hooked up properly so that it takes up a lot of the heavy lifting. But nevertheless, there's so many things. There's so many different elements that require you to think about, and you'll never figure them all out before you start. So you have to start, but to be aware of the amount of work that is involved. Which is something that I'm just dealing with, because it's like I've got my sort of list. I've got to create a new lead magnet. I've got to finish my website quiz. I've got to write this new VSL, update the website copy, because that I have to do that myself. ChatGPT or Claude, AI can't do that for me, or not to the level that I want. Define some of the bonuses that I am providing within my program. So my program, my focus is helping business owners with physical locations who are really struggling, feeling kind of bombarded, overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that we all have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. But if you're a business owner and you have a physical business, and you've got multiple locations, then you're dealing with staff that are always wanting something from you, are trying to potentially steal from you, or who are unhappy with the working conditions. And then you're dealing with customers that are never happy, and you're dealing with family. If you've made a bit of money, then all of a sudden you've got family members who are reaching out or coming to you for a handout. And then, the pressure of the business, you're waking up and you're in the morning and you're thinking like, fuck, I've got to deal with all of these problems. As soon as you look at your phone, you just know there's going to be a bunch of problems to deal with, and you're just dreading the day. And then your relationship with your spouse suffers. This is something that I also I've been with my partner on and off for 10 years, and trying to run a business and put the energy into that thing that requires all of your focus and attention inevitably leads to difficulties with your partner. And so what I help my clients with is to come up with new ways, new strategies, and new internal resources, so new ways of thinking, new ways of feeling, new perspectives, new mindset that allows them to handle all of these problems that they're facing. Because it's tough, man. It's really tough, and I've been in that position myself where it just feels like the world is out to get you. Like the walls are caving in, and you're worried that at any moment your business is going to fall apart. It's going to be taken away from you. Government's going to, the tax man is going to hit you with a massive tax bill that you can't afford. And so even though you're doing well, from the outside it looks like you're doing well, you're constantly on edge, afraid that at any moment somebody's going to take it away from you, or it's all going to come crashing down. But I've been in that position where, from an external perspective, I should have been happy. I should have had good mental health. I was working out, I had some friends, and yet I was miserable because of the way that I was thinking about my life. These like automatic scripts, these programs that we have running all of the time about what we're worth. This inner critic that says you're not capable of handling this responsibility. You're not capable of running multiple locations. You're not deserving of love. You're not. Actually, I noticed this just yesterday. Okay, this is a bit of an insight into where my mind was at. I was struggling with my relationship a little bit for the same sort of reasons. So at the moment, trying to get this business set up, all working, making money, requires so much time and effort. I'm working 10, 12 hours a day, and my relationship was suffering. And I recognized, just yesterday, funnily enough, I recognized that in my mind I was playing this, had this thought on repeat saying, I'm not capable enough. I can't handle it all, right? I can't deal with the business stuff and with my partner. I can't do this. I can't do that. And I caught myself just in that loop, and I realized, I was like, oh shit, I'm repeating this pattern over and over and over again, and I'm convincing myself that I'm not capable enough, that I can't handle the responsibility of building the business and the energy that it requires, and manage and give my partner everything that she needs. But that's a story. That was a story that I'm telling myself, or was telling myself, and I hadn't even recognized it up until that point that I was I was basically making myself overwhelmed by everything that I had going on. I was like, yeah, it's weird. We have all of these responsibilities, these tasks that we have to get done. For me at the moment, it's getting this new sales funnel and webinar sorted so that I can serve my clients and attract new clients to the business. And then I had the relationship stuff and all of these different elements, and we just get into these mental loops of telling ourselves that we can or can't do certain things, that we are or aren't capable of certain things, that and in this case, that's what I was doing. And when I recognized that, I was like, oh, hang on a minute, this is just a story that I'm telling myself. And when I did that, honestly, I just let go of that stress that had been building up, because I'd been in my mind, oh my God, how am I going to deal with this all? I can't deal with this all. All right, and repeating it over and over again. And then I interrupted that pattern by recognizing that it was a story, that I was repeating these thoughts, and let it go. And it changed. This is the thing. It changes your energy. It changes. I know this sounds a little bit woo-woo, but it changes the not only changes how you're behaving, like how you're showing up with other people, but it changes your energy in a way that, for example, my partner recognized to, like, in, you know, not consciously necessarily, but she recognized a change in how I was feeling, like the energy that I was emitting, and it actually allowed us to come closer. It actually allowed us, like, that me making the change in my own mind around my own capabilities changed how I was feeling, changed the energy I was emitting, and therefore impacted our relationship. And this is why I love this, you know, raising awareness around how our minds work, and doing so in a very structured, systemized way, so that it's learnable. But it's so, I don't know, it's so cool. It's so cool when you start to realize the power that you have within your own mind, and how you can actually change it, like how you can impact the quality of your life, the way that you're thinking, feeling, and acting. Simply, I say simply, it is simple, it's not necessarily easy, but simply by changing what's going on up here and changing the way that your nervous system is working and regulated. So yeah, it's a pretty cool process, but like I said, you know, trying to juggle all the different bits and pieces, we don't often give those, we don't give, it's so often that we focus on external problems and try to fix external problems. Now that makes sense, right? We think, okay, well, I've got a problem outside of myself. I've got to make money. I've got to finish a website. But we don't usually give enough thought to what's going on within us. How we're thinking, how we're feeling. You know, talk about like mental health. I don't like the term mental health because it's so often kind of connotated with depression and some sort of, I don't know, what is it about mental health that I don't like? Something to do with the radical, something to do with like the radical leftist sort of approach to mental health, where it's, you know, everybody's got a mental health problem, and you know, we all have to walk on eggshells around each other because we're all so delicate. I hate that view. That's just a terrible way of approaching people, because I know that we're all way more resilient and tough than a lot of people think, and I don't think it benefits anybody to be like tiptoeing around somebody because they've got mental health problems. But I've forgotten where I was going with this. Oh yeah, but it is such, like the way that we think and feel, like the way that we are in our identity, and by identity I mean like how do you, your self-perception, your self-concept, what do you think of yourself? Do you think of yourself as capable and strong and resilient and you know, a creator and designer of your life, or do you think of yourself as a victim, right? Are you just a victim of your circumstance? Are you just at the mercy of what's going on around you? Do people trigger you, or do you allow yourself to be triggered by people, right? There's a difference. Responsibility, on the one hand, you give their responsibility for how you feel to other people and say, okay, the other person's got power over me. Or you take on that responsibility and say, no, actually, it's something within myself that's being triggered. So I'm essentially allowing myself to be triggered by what somebody else says. And I think it's just when we have that awareness, when we have the awareness and take on that responsibility for how we think, feel, and act, then we empower ourselves. We then become the creators and the determining factor in our own lives. And that is really why I love entrepreneurship, because it kind of embodies that attitude of like, no, I'm not going to wait and, you know, ask somebody for a job. I'm not going to wait for a pay rise. I'm not going to work for somebody else on their dream. No, I'm gonna take on that risk and that responsibility for my life, and I'm going to build the thing that I'm really passionate about, that I really want to, and start to create, like intentionally create the life that I want. I know a lot of people do that in jobs as well, but there's always that feeling like you're under the thumb of somebody, and you're working on somebody else's dream, and not your own. And I think a lot of the time, people work for other people, and then they justify it, they rationalize it to themselves, saying, "Well, I'm working on my dream by working for this other company, by working for this other person." And I think a lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time, that is just one of these stories that we tell ourselves so that we can be more comfortable not chasing our dreams, right? So it's not that we really are working on our dreams. It's just that we tell ourselves that we are, so that we can get by and work for somebody else and not take on the risk of starting our own thing. So it's that's why I love entrepreneurship. But it comes with a lot of trade-offs. Like I said, I've got a workshop that I'm going to host in about an hour and a half's time. I've got to update my website, create a new VSL, organize this webinar, which I'm really excited about, and I'll let you guys know when that's going live, because I think this is, again, it's going to be giving you the strategies to take control of your mind, take control of your emotions, your nervous system, and really overcome the fear that we all have, and change the way that change the story, the internal narrative that you have on repeat about who you are, what you're capable of. And by doing so, you are going to be able to better relate to people, right? Like the example I was talking about before, where by changing the story that I was telling myself, I changed how I related to my partner, and we fixed a lot of the challenges, the problems that we were having. You are able to then handle staff. This is a big problem for the people that I work with, is they have multiple locations of their business, and they have staff. And if you're one of those people, then you'll understand what I'm talking about. You'll know that it's a constant struggle managing people. Now, I'm here in Vietnam, and I both work with other Vietnamese people, with Vietnamese people, as well as I know somebody else who's currently helping to mentor a Vietnamese business woman, and trying to manage people, whether it's in your own language or in a different language, is one of the hardest things that you can ever do. And so by focusing on this methodology, this system that I've created, you're going to be able to be much more effective in the way that you interact with your staff, and how you can negotiate both with yourself and with your staff and with your partner or your spouse in ways that produce the results that you really want. Because so often, and I've been in this situation before, many, many, many times before with my partner, is you want a good relationship. We all want to have a harmonious relationship with our partner or our friends, the people around us. And yet you get into a situation and they say something, and all of a sudden you're both shouting, you're both angry, you're saying things that you don't really want to say, but you want to say in the moment because you're pissed off. And what ultimately happens is it can damage the relationship, and then you have to do a whole lot of repairing. And so even though your initial aim is to have a harmonious relationship, there's something going on within you that is responding potentially in a negative way to your partner or to your staff. And then you create these external results that you're unhappy with, because you're not entirely in control of your own internal state. And that's what I'm really working on at the moment. Once the webinar has been, or the masterclass, I should say, because it's going to be an interactive session, once that's fully finalized, I will start advertising and let you guys know, because I know that it will benefit you as well. I think Alex Hormozy said the greatest skill anyone can learn is learning to feel good no matter the circumstance. Learning to be in a good mood, regardless of whether you have something to be in a good mood about. And the reason for that is because we think, oh, I need to have my external circumstances. I need to have everything needs to be going well in my life for me to feel good. And the problem is that life is always full of challenges. It's always full of struggles, and so there's always going to be times where you can't control the external circumstances. But if you feel good in that circumstance, then you're much better equipped to control the outcome. Because if you can choose how you respond to things properly, not like in an argument with your partner where you explode and lose control of yourself, but when you really take control of your ability to control your internal state, that's when you start to control your external reality as well. And that's what I aim to do in this masterclass with you, is giving you these insights from psychology, from neurolinguistic programming, from a range of other things, human biology and human behavior, because we have these amazing systems and mechanisms within our own mind and body that allow us to do all of these things. We have everything at our disposal. We just need to understand how to harness them. Like, we have the tools there. We just need to know that they're there in the first place, and then how to use them. And when you can do that, you really become like a leader, both for yourself in your own life, but also then a leader for the people around you. You take on that role and that identity of somebody who is in control and is at peace with themselves, is calm and confident, is articulate. You have the ability to then communicate in a way, not just the way that you want, but a way that gets the result, that creates the result that you're ultimately after. And so that's at the core of what this masterclass will be about. So I'm really excited to share that with you once it's finalized. I'm also curious, for those watching, what are the biggest challenges right now that you are facing? Maybe if that's too personal, maybe you can just put in the chat. What's the main area of focus for you in your life at the moment? Is it business? Is it your job? Is it your relationship? Is it getting a relationship? Is it your health, your fitness? What is it? I'd love to get some insight into what are you currently most focused on and most keen to improve on, because maybe there's some content that I can create for you that would help in that pursuit, and maybe the webinar, the masterclass that I'm putting together will be exactly the right fit for you. So let me know. But anyway, yeah, back to work. It's funny, eh? The number of things we've got to balance in our lives. Everybody has so much going on, and it's easy to distract ourselves instead of really focusing on what moves the needle. But it is what it is. We're all trying to get by and make something out of our lives the best that we can. And what I'd encourage, and this is kind of the attitude that I've really tried to adopt over the past year, is not feeling like you have to do it all at once. It's very easy when you're in a lot of pain and you're suffering on multiple fronts to feel like you kind of get overwhelmed by the number of things that you have to fix. It's like same goes for if you're building a business. Right now I have 30 different things that I have to finish or create and start and finish. And if you try to perceive it all, if you try to hold all of it in your mind and think of all of the steps and everything, all of the work that's involved and necessary in order to get you from where you are right now to where you ultimately want to go, it becomes way too overwhelming. And there's just no way that you can handle all of that all at once. We're not built to take in all of the information and deal with multiple massive problems all at once. We have the capability, but only when we start to break them down into small manageable chunks and prioritize and focus on like what is the next step that I can take, rather than thinking about the entire journey. And what I've been really focusing on in times where there's so many things that I can be doing and should be doing is to remind myself of that, to remind myself of like, okay, what is the most important thing right here, right now? And if it's some big thing and it still feels too overwhelming, then I break it down. I break it down into a smaller and smaller chunk until I feel like, okay, that's something that I can manage. That's something that I can actually start and would move the needle forward, and I don't need to try and hold or perceive the entire problem. I can break it down into one or two small steps, and that's my starting point. And that's been really useful. That's been really, really useful for me. Same goes for if you're trying to get fit. If you're trying to get to the gym and you're thinking about, oh God, well, I've got to start eating healthier and I've got to start drinking more water and I've got to go to the gym 5 times a week and I've got to do X, Y, Z. It becomes too overwhelming and you never start. And so if you want to actually get the result, the way to do that is to just look at, okay, what's one thing that I could do? What's one small thing? If it's going to the gym, for example, just show up at the gym. You don't even have to work out. Maybe the small step that you start with is showing up. You go to the gym 3 days a week, but you just walk in the door, have a look around, leap. Now, the likelihood of you actually training once you get there is quite high. But if you think about all of the training and all the rest of it, it becomes too overwhelming. So if you focus on just showing up, then all of a sudden you take that step, and then you're able to take the next one and the next one. So that's very useful. Oh, and if we're talking about the current state of the world, stop paying attention to it all. We're also, as human beings, we are so not designed to take in and to handle in our minds all of the world's catastrophes all at once. Like, if you think about it, like we weren't designed for that. We weren't built to witness all of the terrible things happening around the planet all at the same time simultaneously. Like, and yet people, are on their phones consuming hours of social media or news and different articles, witnessing all of these terrible things that are happening around the globe, and then they're wondering why they don't feel good. It's like, hello. It's like, maybe you shouldn't be consuming hours and hours and hours of terrible content every single day. If you manage to just switch that off, just think how much better you might feel just from that change. It's so funny, like we get trapped, man. We get pulled into consuming things that are not good for us. And when you start to understand the way that your mind works and the way that your subconscious mind works, and how doing that really impacts your underlying mental programming in a negative way, then yeah, maybe you'll start to be more careful and specific with what kind of content that you consume. Yeah, but it's tough. Maybe just try with no longer consuming, consume an hour less of news a day. Or maybe it's half an hour less. Start small. Again, just got to start small. Well, anyway, I'm going to, because I've been talking to you for all this time, and I love it, but it is a very one-way conversation. And I have got some work to do. So I'm going to get back to finalizing my website and preparing for the workshop tonight. The workshop I'm co-hosting, which is an in-person workshop, but I hope to do similar online workshops at some point. But the in-person workshop I'm co-hosting is all about marketing and mindset. So getting overcoming fear of visibility, figuring out how, like, what your personal brand should be, how what niche you should be working in, what your offer should be, and then how to get comfortable with that new idea, that new version of you. Because ultimately, what really makes a difference when you're starting something or doing anything is how you see yourself, your self-concept, your self-perception, your identity. Identity shapes everything else. So if you shape your identity, then the results start to follow. If you see yourself on a subconscious level, right, as a foundational level, as a successful, confident, energized, healthy entrepreneur, then that is the attitude and the energy that you'll bring to everything that you do. And by doing that, the results will follow. It's inevitable. So anyway, I will see you next time. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you sticking around and listening to me ramble on. I hope you found it useful. And if you've got any questions, if there's anything that you would like to discuss in person, I actually offer a free call available on my, you can see the link to that is on my channel. You can just book a call there and jump on a one-to-one with me. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what it is that you're currently going through and how I might be able to assist you, help you get the results faster and less painfully than doing it all yourself as you've currently been doing it. So book a call if you're interested and you're wanting to get some help and to explore different ways of doing things. This is one of the most powerful parts of coaching, is that you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what your blind spots are. And by jumping on a call with somebody, by interacting, having a conversation about what's going on with somebody who actually understands psychology and how the human mind works and is really actually paying attention and interested in your story, then you can gain that rapid change, that new perspective on things that you didn't actually know. It hadn't even crossed your mind. Like I said, I've experienced this with many of my clients where just a conversation, a simple walking through the process, and something changes. They get a new insight, and that new insight impacts how they're thinking, how they're feeling, and ultimately how they then act. And so they start to create some really amazing results for themselves in their personal lives and in their businesses as a result of that conversation. So I really encourage you to jump on if you're interested. All right, I will see you in the next one. Peace.